Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks again for joining us for tonight's show. Pretty good snowfall amounts during the weekend, and up until 9 a.m. Sunday, over 2 feet falling at Girdwood, or the Girdwood area, or in the greater Girdwood area. Potter's Marsh, about 22 inches, the Hillside Anchorage, 21. And at the Weather Service office out on Sand Lake Road, 13 inches. By contrast, you go up the valley, just 4.5 at Talkeetna, and only 2.5 falling in the Palmer area. And the snow advisory is still going out here for the western Kenai Peninsula for a little while longer, and that's mostly down toward the Homer area, since snow's really tapered off up to the north. And still some snow advisories going on for portions of mainly the eastern Alaska Range, and still a wind chill advisory up here for the eastern Arctic coast ending this evening. And that's about it warning wise. So onto the satellite yesterday, you could see we had this big storm, a lot of moisture moving into the southeast coast, cold air coming down in behind here already across Kodiak Island and out into the western Gulf of Alaska. That moisture coming back in and around, colliding with the cold air sliding in from the northwest. So that's what brought all the snow, especially over portions of south central Alaska. Cold back here to the west, northerly flow, and some moisture coming down through the Bering Strait. That hasn't really changed much since yesterday. You can see these impulses of clouds coming into the Chukchi Sea, and that all getting carried southward on those northerly winds into the central Bering Sea areas. And then for today, you can still see low pressure spinning, at least into the early afternoon, right over the Whittier area or Portage there. So still a lot of snow, heavy snow going on, especially during the morning hours there up along the North Gulf Coast. Cordova picking up about 18 inches of snow, or at least 8 to 10 inches more snow in the last 24 hours. A lot of snow showers going on over the northern southeast coast, and more of a scattered rain and mixed snow shower condition down over the southern areas. That front having pushed all the way south of the Queen Charlotte's, letting the colder air through. And then you can see the moisture coming southward here in that north to south flow all the way down. It takes a curves right into the Alaska Peninsula, and some clearing skies, windy conditions across Kodiak again. Akiak seeing gusts over 60 miles an hour earlier today. Still some snow going on, but beginning to taper off, kind of back up along the western Alaska Range, ending up in the Susitna Valley. Some areas clearing out, Talkeetna and Kenai, with temperatures falling 2 or below 0 in those areas. And then some flurries or areas of light snow over the eastern interior. Cold in the central areas here. Back edge of that cloud band moving slightly eastward throughout the day, and as that did, temperatures dropped into the mid-30s to lower -40s there in the Koyukuk and eastern Kobuk Valley areas, and then some southwest winds due to the systems tracking eastward along the coast there, pushing the wind chills as low as 60 below 0 at times, but that's letting up currently, and those advisories are about to end. High pressure, lighter winds building into that area during the day today, and we still have this low again at the surface at 9 a.m. A lot of snow occurring around that, especially as I mentioned along the North Gulf Coast from Yakutat back to Cordova, and then areas of back into the northern or to the north and west side of that system. Trough swinging those snow showers, colder air into the southeast coast, and then a lot of low clouds with areas of flurries and fog here, again extending from the Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutian areas, Nikolsky in Alaska, all the way back up into the Chukchi Sea, and one batch of moisture having pushed eastward across the Barrow area earlier today has cleared out a little bit now, and you can see that same sort of pattern is going to continue. A weak low up to the north there, and then a couple of troughs bringing some skiffs of snow really for the next couple of days up there along the Arctic coast. Otherwise high pressure, clearing skies out, cold temperatures tonight, lows 30 to 50 below over the interior. Clearing skies also for south central Alaska, so when the skies clear, temperatures will easily fall to 0 tonight and below unless the winds, except for the windier areas, which would be like along Cook Inlet. Seward will probably hold on to the winds, gusting 40 miles an hour this afternoon. That'll probably begin to diminish tonight as well as in Whittier as this low pulls off to the southeast. Snow advisories out for the portions of the northern panhandle for 2 to 6 inches occurring, say Juneau, Elfin Cove on up to Haines, possibly Skagway. High pressure, nothing going on out here over the Bering Sea, just the same pattern you've seen for the last couple of days continuing, but lighter on the winds continuing to diminish. Same thing for Kodiak, winds coming down. Just some channeled winds here, maybe up to 40 miles an hour again over the through the passes of the mountainous terrain, and then a weakening frontal system not even making it up to the Aleutians there. And we're going to watch this system down here to the south off the map. Makes a pretty good stride to the northeast, bringing rain back into the southern southeast coast during the day tomorrow. Areas starting out as snow, and the farther north you are, the better chance you'll see it starting as snow, but should switch over to rain pretty rapidly, especially down towards Klawock over to Ketchikan, and of course Annette and Metlakatla in those areas a lot sooner, but could get a little interesting here through the northern edges there. This Arctic boundary right over the northern panhandle, so some periods of snow continuing there, but dry, cold weather here over the interior. Temperatures struggling to get above 0 south of the mountains, north of the mountains in the 15 to 30 below range for highs. A little milder here with the cloud cover and those passing troughs along the Arctic coast. Some of that moisture actually slipping down into the Koyukuk Valley at times, clearing out, and then its other system coming out of the Russian Far East, bringing a lot of low clouds, fog, IFR conditions. Some of that will slip on into Norton Sound and catch the southern coast there, Nome over to Golovin. A little bit better due to southerly winds up in Kotzebue Sound in those areas. Fair weather, good VFR here even off the southwest coast. High pressure right near the Pribilofs, or light winds in that area. And the gradient beginning to tighten up here over the Aleutians due to those systems down to the south. We'll see on Tuesday or by Monday night should be back into the gales and periods of rain and fog here all along the Aleutian chain. Rain taking a little bit longer to show up over the eastern Aleutians there, but definitely you'll see an increase in the winds probably in the 30 to 35 knot range here, maybe gusts as high as 50, 55, or even 60 miles an hour over the Aleutians. More moisture is coming inland here, right into Norton Sound, and trying to stream into the central interior associated with this low near Tin City out there in the front back across St. Lawrence Island. Periods of snow there all the way down to the Yukon Delta, and west winds possibly gusting up to 40 miles an hour at Kaktovik there, so that could result in some blowing snow conditions again. Maybe the wind chill advisory is coming back out as well. But more clouds and a little more flurry conditions into the northeast interior than what we'll see tomorrow. But high pressure holding on over the Tanana Valley should keep the that area pretty dry and clear southward right into the Gulf of Alaska. We still have this weak low persisting in the Gulf of Alaska due to the continued outflow of cold air from the interior. And now notice that storm system moves across Dixon Entrance tomorrow night. And so that'll be followed by this high pressure area building into the Yukon there. And so tomorrow night, those winds will begin to increase pretty dramatically through Lincoln Island Glacier Bay. And that's going to push that Arctic front back down into the southern areas Tuesday afternoon for some snow as those lows pull off into northwest Canada. Otherwise, temperatures this afternoon there range from 35 at Heidelberg to 36, pretty common temperature there over much of the southern southeast coast. Juneau had 33, 32 snow showers in Elfin Cove, 28 at Yakutat, Skagway 35, south winds 25 miles an hour, 25 degrees at Cordova. Valdez, still some snow showers around, and 21. These are all 4 p.m. temperatures. 2 degrees Galcana, 7 at Paxson, and -6 up at Talkeetna. 3 below at -6 at Denali. 3 below at Talkeetna. 10 degrees warmer, 16 degrees warmer at Anchorage. 20 in Seward, 22 at Homer, 21 in Kodiak. Generally below 0 there through the Tanana Valley with some areas of light snow. Clear skies, 22 below up at Fort Yukon. -40 cold spot at Bettles, but Prudhoe Bay for the 12-hour low was 43 degrees below zero up here on the Arctic coast. Those afternoon temperatures coming up a little bit as some more clouds rolled in into the mid-minus 20s. -3 over at Barrow and a -6 at Noatak. Same thing at Selawik. Kotzebue at 1, Nome 9 above, 16 at Tin City, 18 Savunga, and single numbers here across the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta. Teens out along the coast, below zero off to the east, and 5 to 10 across Bristol Bay, upper 20s and 30s, lower 30s there, or 25 to 30 for the peninsula. Mid-30s out here over the Aleutians with Adak, the warm location. And moving on to the lows for tonight, looks like, again, mid-minus 30s to mid-minus 40s here over the interior areas. And cold once again, but kind of a variation there up along the Arctic coast with 30 to 40 below over the north slope, and mostly in the 30s here for this panhandle. The Aleutians, 30s or near 30 on average, and then below zero up over northeast Bristol Bay. Falling 2 or below zero here over south central Alaska. Milder though, Prince William Sound and the North Gulf Coast with a little more cloudiness. And then for highs tomorrow, single numbers or 0 to 20, call it for southern Alaska. Well below zero up in the interior. Milder 20s right along the Bering Sea coastline there, but 12 at Nome. 30s over the Aleutians and 30s for the highs over the Panhandle. Looking at flying weather conditions, not too bad here. Looking for it to come back down again. Marginal VFR, possibly IFR spreading up to the southern southeast coast, coming up from Dixon Entrance during the afternoon tomorrow, and then some persistent marginal to possibly IFR conditions here along and north of the Arctic boundary into the Gulf of Alaska, and then the lower stuff will be pretty extensive out here from the northeast Bering Sea into the Yukon Delta coastline eastward across Norton Sound and also the Chukchi Sea, and then wrapping back up and along the Arctic coast. Passes Anatuva, occasionally marginal lows conditions will be on the northern entrance, and that same forecast also for Adigan. Lake Clark and Merrill looking really good tomorrow. VFR, rainy, same forecast. Windy should be VFR the entire day. For Mentasta, Isabel starting out marginal and then should gradually become VFR into the afternoon, if not before. And for the, let's see, one more pass. Tanita, VFR, and actually a couple more. Portage, VFR, and Chilkoot and White, marginal VFR, maybe IFR, but probably something better than that. So for the freezing levels here at the surface, down almost to the Aleutians, cutting across the Alaska Peninsula this late tonight, early tomorrow morning, and then coming in across the southeast coast, 2,000 feet, actually starting to pull back to the north by late tonight with that next system pulling up. So 2,000 to 4,000 foot freezing levels tomorrow afternoon will actually come in across the southern southeast coast, but staying down to the deck here out to the west and of course to the north. Icing, nothing out here. The only place we'll see an increasing threat will be here over the southern southeast coast with that next inbound system coming up toward Dixon Entrance. For the winds aloft, northwest flow aloft, 70 to 90 knots here across interior Alaska, kind of a double jet here, the Arctic jet to the north, keeping most of the state under the influence, and then the southwest jet coming up from, well, down from the south, 140 knots as those two jets collide. That's going to be inching its way northward here as that next storm system approaches the Panhandle tomorrow and tomorrow night. And looking at 9,000 feet, high pressure over the southeast Bering Sea. Still some pretty brisk winds here along the Alaska Range from the Kuskokwim Valley, 30 to 35 knots, but generally in a downward trend. Westerlies, though, 25 to 35 knots along the Arctic coast. Light winds over the northeast Gulf of Alaska. And here's the next system and the strong winds, which will move in tomorrow night into the southern Panhandle, but the strongest wind should stay to the south or to the east. And then these increasing winds here, mostly along and south of the Aleutians at 3,000 feet in that 20 knot range over the eastern Aleutians, 30 to 35 knots along the remainder of the chain. And northerly still pretty brisk here, but dropping off throughout the afternoon for Kodiak Island slowly, but they're not going to end completely there. Westerly flow working its way into the central interior, 10 to 20 knots, and then up to 25 to 30 knots for the Arctic coast. And a trough here off the southeast coast. Again, those strongest winds still south of the Queen Charlottes tomorrow at midday, and that will mostly stay to the south since the low center may not track any farther north than Dixon Entrance. And turbulence-wise, look for some increasing moderate chop there due to that next system, but staying well to the south, and some leftover mechanical turbulence up here along the North Gulf Coast from Lynn Canal westward to Cook Inlet, back down to Kodiak Island, and areas of occasional light to very isolated moderate turbulence going on up over the Arctic coast, and then moderate chop showing up again there along the Aleutians. And after the break, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecasts.
Up on Destination Tomorrow, painless dentistry becomes a reality with a new dental probe designed by NASA to detect periodontal disease. We'll also see how future technologies might allow planes to fly like a bird. And we'll meet the man who enabled efficient supersonic flight to become a reality. All this and more next on Destination Tomorrow.
Hello everyone, I'm Steele McGonigal.
And I'm Kara O'Brien, and welcome to Destination Tomorrow.
This program will uncover how past, present, and future research is creating today's knowledge to answer the questions and solve the challenges of tomorrow.
We begin with an issue that affects all aircraft that fly in our atmosphere. The formation of ice on airplanes is not only an issue on the runway during cold weather, but can form on airplanes in flight. This problem can be a dangerous situation for any piloted aircraft. Fortunately, NASA has been conducting research on icing with a unique wind tunnel facility that creates icing conditions on aircraft.
Jennifer Pulley takes Destination Tomorrow behind the scenes to see how this icing research tunnel is helping engineers combat icing conditions on aircraft.
Thanks for the ice. You know, there's nothing like a beverage chilled with ice during a long flight. Inside an airplane, ice is something passengers desire. However, outside an airplane, ice can be dangerous, especially if it forms on the wings or engines. I had the opportunity to speak with Judy Foss Van Zanti at the NASA Glenn Research Center in Cleveland, Ohio. She's researching the effects of icing on aircraft at a unique facility called the Icing Research Tunnel. Researchers at this facility study the formation of ice on the exterior of aircraft. So while flying, the only ice you'll need to worry about is the ice inside your cup.
Well, I'm standing right here in the Icing Research Tunnel. Right here we create on Earth what it's like for an airplane to fly through an icing cloud up there. To do that, we got to make it windy, cold, and wet. Now right now I'm standing in front of the fan. We have the fan to create the wind, and in the test section, which is a much smaller cross-sectional area, we can get winds up to 400 miles per hour. So that's about as fast as a plane might fly through in an icy environment. We create the cold with our heat exchanger, 1,700 ton. It can cool 500 homes. That's how big it is. We can get from 0 Celsius down to about -20, which is where the icing might occur in nature. And we have spray bars. The spray bars is what makes the icing tunnel. We create the rain. We create a mist that the airplane would fly through. Now the thing about the spray bars is the researchers need to control both how much water is in the cloud, the liquid water content we call it, and how big the drop size is. And we have spray bars specially designed to create those conditions. So in our test section, we create what it's like for a plane to fly through an icing cloud.
So why did NASA build an icing research tunnel?
As it turns out, during World War II, the Allies lost more aircraft to icing than enemy fires. They were trying to fly supplies over the Himalayas. So the Air Corps turned to NACA, that's NASA's predecessor, and asked them to build an icing research tunnel so we could understand what was going on and how to fix the problem.
So what do you test in the icing research tunnel, or the IRT?
What we test in the IRT is what makes sense to test. Now if you think about it, if you're in an airplane flying through an icing cloud, what surfaces are most critical to keep ice-free? Well, it's the wings, which provide the lift, get you off the ground, and it's the engine inlet, which provides the forward thrust. So we typically can test just those components, just the wing or the engine inlet.
So what happens when ice forms on an airplane's wing? Well, ice can disrupt the airflow over a wing and will eventually cause the airflow to separate. This separation of airflow creates more drag and less lift. If ice continues to form, the wing will no longer produce the appropriate amount of lift needed to keep the airplane in flight. In some cases, ice creates airflow separation over movable parts, like an aileron. This could create handling or control problems, and the plane could suddenly roll.
As the wing is flying through the air, the ice only accumulates around the leading edge. So that's why ice protection systems only wrap around the front part of the wing. The biggest factor in how the ice grows is temperature. So if it's really cold, the water droplet comes in, hits the front part of the wing, and freezes on impact. And you get this nice pointy rime shape. The more dangerous ice comes during warmer conditions, those closer to freezing, where the water comes in, hits the leading edge, and actually runs back a little bit. If that happens, the next droplet might come in, see that droplet that is frozen, and start to grow. So you might get these ram's horns that grow upstream. Now that significantly disrupts your airflow, and that's way off design, and that's very bad.
Judy, tell me a little bit more about the icing protection system. Do all planes have it?
There's what we call an anti-ice system, where you don't allow the ice to grow at all. That's if you got a very hot leading edge. You see that in jets. Then there's a de-icing system, which has pneumatic boots, that the boots will wrap around that leading edge, they'll inflate and pop the ice off. So you let the ice grow, and then you got to get it off. The pneumatic boots are typically what you see with turboprop aircraft.
Does icing affect planes in, say, a warm climate?
Icing occurs everywhere. You've got to be aware of it. I've got a pilot friend who told me the worst icing he encountered was flying from Florida to the Caribbean in July at 16,000 feet. The worst icing he ever saw. But icing really can occur anywhere and any time. One of the things we do here at NASA is to have better designs. So maybe a system that would automatically turn on the ice protection system if a sensor goes up. The short-term solution is to train the pilots and educate them about how to detect icing, how to be aware of it, train them how to get out of the icing environment if and when they need to. Ideally, icing is a non-issue in the future. We're working to get there.
In 1987, the Icing Research Tunnel was designated an International Historical Mechanical Engineering Landmark for its leading role in making aviation safer for everyone. Coming up, we'll see how a new dental probe designed by NASA will make going to the dentist a little easier. But first, did you know that during World War II, the Allies lost nearly 1,000 planes over the Himalayan mountains due to icing? Flight conditions here were so treacherous that pilots called this dangerous route the Hump, or the Aluminum Trail.
Welcome back. Looking at the winds here for the Panhandle, east to northeast, 15 to 20 knots, and then 25 knot winds coming up throughout the day down along the south coast, otherwise east to northeast, 15 to 20. And then for Tuesday, the storm having already gone through by Tuesday midday, so those north winds will be blowing in behind northwest, 20 to 25 knots. Northeast up to 25 here for the central inside waters, and then northerly gales for Lynn Canal and Glacier Bay. Moving on to Prince William Sound, northeast at 20, about 15 for Cook Inlet, turning northerly, and then northwesterlies continuing at least at small craft advisory levels, along with heavy freezing spray occurring in these areas, but dropping off to 15 to 20 there across Kodiak Island. And looking at Tuesday, hold on to the freezing spray and enough gradient here to at least keep 25 knot winds going with higher gusts there across the Barrens up into Kamashack Bay. Lighter winds though for Cook Inlet in the 10 to 15 knot range, and across Kodiak coming down to 15 knots, a little stronger in the morning. Going out west to Bristol Bay, northeast at 15 for that area. Northerlies 15 knots, not too bad here for the peninsula. Northwest starting out 30 or 32 knots there southwest of Kodiak Island, coming down to 20 knots tomorrow afternoon with freezing spray beginning to end. And for the Aleutians, northeast 15, taking a turn to the east at 20, small craft advisories over the central and western areas. Then for Tuesday, looks like gales come back in to the picture here, especially probably Monday night continuing through Tuesday, northeast 35, easterlies 35 to 45 knots, but small craft advisories across the Fox Islands. For the Bering Sea, pretty light here in Nunivak Island on down toward well over to Cape Newenham, and then north of the island, southwesterlies picking up to 20 knots across St. Lawrence Island. Lighter for the northern Bering, a light wind day tomorrow for the Pribilofs, and that'll probably continue through tomorrow night and into Tuesday. And then late in the day, those easterlies will begin to increase there, especially for St. George Island, coming up to around 20 knots again in the late part of the afternoon. West, southwest, 10 to 15 here for the coast and northern Bering, back up to 20 knots there as one system rolls by just north of St. Lawrence Island. On the Arctic coast, southwest, 20 to 25 knots at times. On the east side, pretty light westerly winds, 10 to 15 or 10 to 20 knots there for the western stretch of the coast. And looking at Tuesday's forecast, very light, kind of an easterly drift there at about 10. Otherwise, strongest winds will continue to be along the east side here, 20 to 25 knots from the west or southwest. Looking at tonight again, clearing out, colder temperatures, a little bit of a breeze in areas here across south central Alaska into Prince William Sound, but clear and cold, temperatures 30 to 50 below for the lows, milder up here where there's more cloud cover and a little more flurry conditions. High pressure out over the Bering Sea, keeping this stuff down to the south, at least for the time being. And snow advisories, 2 to 6 inches possible there for the northern panhandle, tapering off in the south. This next system moving quite rapidly up to the northeast, spreading wind and rain or snow or some mix into the southern areas, progressing northward. Clear and cold over the interior, no change to the Arctic coast. Another system developing there over the Bering Sea from some snow into Tuesday. And
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
It's never too early to set expectations and goals for your child's education. The UA College Savings Plan provides opportunities that can help you reach your educational savings goals. Save in Alaska. Study anywhere. There is more information available by calling 1-888, the number 4, and then Alaska. This message sponsored by the UA College Savings Plan.